When we look up at the sky today, we see all sorts of birds flying around. Some of these, like the Andean condor or the wandering albatross, are really big. When their wings are fully spread out, they can be as wide as a small room. These birds are truly kings of the sky, traveling miles by riding on air currents. Watching them fly is an amazing experience that makes us feel the power and beauty of nature. They use their huge wings to float in the air without much effort, and it always amazes us how much life has mastered the art of flying. But even these big birds have their limits. According to the rules of nature, the heavier a bird is, the harder it is for it to fly. If a bird's weight goes over a certain limit, its wings just can't create enough power to lift it into the air. That's why today, the biggest bird in the world, the ostrich, can't fly. Its body is too heavy, and its wings are too small to lift it off the ground. It's kind of a trade-off that nature makes, a balance between size and flight. It tells us that the rules of physics also apply to how animals evolve. Imagine if a heavy bird like an ostrich tried to fly. It would need a lot of energy and incredibly strong wings to get off the ground. Its wings would not only have to lift its heavy body, but also overcome the air resistance. Scientists believe that after a certain size, flying becomes physically impossible. That's why today we don't see huge birds like ostriches or emus flying in the sky. They've evolved to live on the ground, where their large size helps protect them from predators. This is a great example of nature's balance. This limit leads us to a very interesting question. If even today's biggest birds can't fly after a certain weight, was there ever a creature in history that was much bigger than all of these and could still fly in the sky? Did nature ever challenge these rules of physics? The answer is yes, and it takes us back millions of years to a time when creatures lived on Earth that we can't even imagine today. A creature that was much larger than any flying bird today, and yet it was the king of the sky. Millions of years ago, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, a different kind of creature ruled the skies. It wasn't a bird, but a flying reptile, called a pterosaur. And among these pterosaurs, the biggest and most amazing was Quetzalcoatlus. It was so huge that even today's largest flying birds would look tiny next to it. Just imagine, a creature with a wingspan of 11 meters, or about 36 feet, that's like a small airplane. When it spread its wings, it must have cast a huge shadow in the sky, scaring the smaller creatures on the ground. The size of Quetzalcoatlus was its most amazing feature. When it stood on the ground, it was as tall as a giraffe. Its weight is estimated to be about 250 kilograms, which is as much as a large lion. Now think about it, today's heaviest flying bird, the Kori bustard, only weighs 18 to 20 kilograms, and even it has to work really hard to fly. So how could a huge creature like Quetzalcoatlus, weighing 250 kilograms, fly? This question remained a puzzle for scientists for decades. It seemed like a miracle of nature that challenged the known rules of physics. Comparing it to today's birds is almost impossible. Today's largest flying bird, the Andean condor, which has a wingspan of about 10 feet, would look like a small child next to Quetzalcoatlus. Quetzalcoatlus was not only huge, but its body structure was also unique. It had a long, thin neck and a very large, beak-like skull that had no teeth. Its wings were made of a membrane of skin that stretched from its fourth finger to its body, just like in bats. These wings provided the necessary lift for it to fly, allowing it to carry its massive body into the sky. When it was in the sky, it must have been a magnificent sight. It probably used warm air currents to glide for hours without flapping its wings, just like today's vultures do. From its height, it would search for its prey on the ground, which could have included small dinosaurs and other creatures. The existence of Quetzalcoatlus reminds us how diverse and amazing Earth's past was. It was a time when nature performed such incredible experiments to push the limits of size and flight, which we can only imagine today. This creature is an extraordinary chapter in the story of life's evolution on Earth. The story of Quetzalcoatlus began in 1971, when a young student named Douglas Lawson was looking for fossils in Texas, USA. He found some unusually large and hollow bones. At first glance, they looked like the bones of a large dinosaur, but their structure was different. They were very light and thin, which hinted at a flying creature. When Lawson and his professors studied these bones, they were amazed. These bones were much bigger than any known flying creature. These were the wing bones of a giant pterosaur, whose existence no one had ever imagined. This discovery was a sensation in the world of paleontology. Scientists couldn't believe that a flying creature could be so big. Early estimates suggested a wingspan of 15 meters, or about 50 feet. However, later, more accurate studies put it closer to 11 to 12 meters or 36 to 39 feet. Still, this size was unheard of. This new creature was named after the Aztec god Quetzalcoatl, who was worshipped as a feathered serpent. This name was perfect for this huge and mysterious creature that once ruled the skies of Mexico and Texas. Its discovery brought up many questions for scientists. The biggest question was, how did it fly? Its bones were hollow and light, which is a key adaptation for flight, but its total weight was still very heavy. Were its wings strong enough to lift its 250-kilogram body into the air? And if it could fly, how did it take off from the ground? Did it jump off a high cliff, or could it run and take off from the ground? These questions kept scientists, engineers, and biologists busy for decades. After that, more fossils were found in the same area, which gave us more information about Quetzalcoatlus. We learned about its long neck, large skull, and its ability to walk on the ground. Fossils also showed that it probably walked on all four limbs on the ground, just like a bat walks on the ground. Its winged arms were so strong that they not only supported its body during flight, but also helped it walk on the ground. Every new discovery made the picture of this incredible creature clearer, but it also made the mystery of its flight even deeper. Understanding how Quetzalcoatlus flew was a huge challenge for scientists. It really pushed the limits of what we knew about physics and biology. The biggest problem was its weight compared to its size. In modern biology, a flying animal's wings need to be big enough to lift its body weight. This is called wing loading. If the wing loading is too high, the animal needs to go super fast to fly. With Quetzalcoatlus estimated to weigh around 550 pounds, scientists had to figure out how its wings could create enough lift to stay in the air, especially at slow speeds. Another big puzzle was how it took off from the ground. Today's big birds, like albatrosses, use the wind to help them fly and often jump off high cliffs. But Quetzalcoatlus fossils have been found in places that were flat plains, where there were no high cliffs. So, did it run to take off? Some scientists argued that with such a big body, it would have been almost impossible to run fast enough to take off. This challenge pushed scientists to come up with new and unique ideas. Some even suggested it might not have been able to fly at all, but its body structure clearly looked like a flying creature. Every part of its body was looked at very closely. Its bones were hollow and had air sacs, just like birds today. This made its skeleton light but strong. Its wing membrane, which was like leather, was probably very strong and flexible. This would have helped it handle the air pressure. Scientists also studied what its wings might have looked like. Were they long and thin, like an albatross's, or wide, like a vulture's? Each design has its pros and cons, and figuring out the right design for Quetzalcoatlus was tricky because the soft wing membrane doesn't survive in fossils. Also, there was the question of its metabolism. Was it a cold-blooded reptile or warm-blooded like birds and mammals? Flying takes a lot of energy, which means you need a high metabolism. Most scientists now believe that Quetzalcoatlus and other pterosaurs were warm-blooded. This would have given them the energy needed for long flights. All these challenges together made Quetzalcoatlus one of the most interesting mysteries in paleontology. To solve it, scientists had to use their imagination and engineering skills. To solve the mystery of Quetzalcoatlus's flight, scientists and engineers worked together. Since we can't go back in time to see it fly, they did the next best thing. They built models. Some created digital models on computers using the anatomy, weight, wing size, and aerodynamics of Quetzalcoatlus. Through these simulations, they could test how it might have flown in different situations. They could simulate things like wing flapping speed, flight angle, and landing techniques to see what was possible. Some researchers took it a step further. They built actual, physical models of Quetzalcoatlus. In the 1980s, aeronautical engineer Paul McCready's team built a half-scale, remote-controlled flying model. This was a very ambitious project. They not only had to make the model look like Quetzalcoatlus, but also make it fly like one. They used lightweight materials and developed a complex system for flapping the wings. Early attempts failed. The model either couldn't fly or crashed immediately. This was proof of how complex the flight of this giant creature was. After continuous efforts and improvements, the team finally succeeded. They built a model that could fly. This experiment revealed many important things. They found that Quetzalcoatlus would have needed a very fancy control system to stay stable, with its big head crest and tail probably playing a part. The model also showed that it probably flew with slow, graceful movements and was good at gliding long distances. It was like a scavenger vulture, circling high in the sky and then swooping down on its prey. New theories also came out about the puzzle of how it took off. One main theory is that Quetzalcoatlus used all four of its limbs to jump, which is called a quadrupedal launch. It would push off the ground with its strong back legs and also use its bent, powerful arms like a tripod. This would launch it high enough into the air where it could spread its huge wings and fly. This theory explains why it didn't need a cliff or a long runway to take off. These models and theories have helped us understand how this amazing creature was possible. It's natural to ask why evolution made a creature like Quetzalcoatlus so huge, and then gave it the ability to fly. After all, many large dinosaurs on the ground were very successful without flying. The answer probably lies in the ecosystem of that time. At the end of the Cretaceous period, giant creatures ruled the earth. On the ground, there were big predators like Tyrannosaurus rex, and avoiding them was a daily challenge for smaller animals. In this situation, flight was a huge advantage. It was not only a great way to escape predators, but it also gave them the ability to explore vast areas to find food. Flight gave Quetzalcoatlus a unique opportunity. It could reach places where land predators couldn't. It could easily travel from one island to another, or from one continent to another. This helped it find new food sources and avoid competition. Scientists believe that Quetzalcoatlus was probably an opportunistic hunter, eating small dinosaurs, lizards, fish, and other small animals. With its long neck and beak, it could easily catch prey while walking on the ground, and if needed, fly to a new hunting ground. This dual lifestyle made it very successful. Its enormous size also had an evolutionary advantage. Large size is a defense in itself. Once Quetzalcoatlus was fully grown, hardly any predator would dare to attack it, especially when it was on the ground. Its huge size would also help it establish dominance in its territory. Also, its large wings helped it glide long distances with less energy, which was very useful for finding food. So this combination of size and flight made it one of the most successful and adaptable predators of its time. In short, the evolution of Quetzalcoatlus was a result of the unique conditions of that era. It was a world where bigger was better. Flight gave it safety, mobility, and access to food, while its massive size protected it from predators and made it a top predator. It was an extreme experiment in evolution to see how big a flying creature could get. Quetzalcoatlus showed that in the right conditions, nature can push the limits of size and flight in ways we can't even imagine today. It was a temporary success, but in its time, it was a spectacular success. About 66 million years ago, the reign of Quetzalcoatlus and other giant pterosaurs in the sky suddenly ended. A huge asteroid hit Earth, causing a worldwide disaster. This event is known as the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event. The impact threw a lot of dust and debris into the air, blocking sunlight for months, maybe even years. This made the Earth dark and caused a huge drop in temperature. Plant life started to die off, which led to plant-eating dinosaurs starving, and then the meat-eating dinosaurs that ate them also died out. This time was especially hard for big animals. A huge creature like Quetzalcoatlus needed a lot of food to stay alive. When the ecosystem fell apart, it became impossible for it to find enough prey. Smaller dinosaurs and other creatures which were its main food source either died or hid. The lack of food directly affected Quetzalcoatlus and other large pterosaurs. Their huge size, which was once their greatest strength, now became their biggest weakness. They couldn't adapt to the changing world and eventually died out. But not everything ended in this great extinction. Some small creatures managed to survive. This included some small feathered dinosaurs, which were the ancestors of today's birds. Their small size turned out to be a blessing for them. They needed very little food to survive, and they could get by on insects, seeds, or the remains of dead animals. They could protect themselves from the harsh conditions by hiding in small shelters. Their ability to fly helped them find safe places and new food sources. So, while the big dinosaurs and pterosaurs were dying out, these small creatures were winning the fight for survival. This event changed the direction of life's evolution forever. The extinction of the giant pterosaurs left the skies empty. This created new opportunities for the small feathered dinosaurs that survived. They no longer had competition from giant flying reptiles. Over the next millions of years, these survivors diversified and evolved into what we call birds today. So a great extinction ended the era of one king of the skies and began the era of another, more flexible and adaptable set of kings. The story of Quetzalcoatlus teaches us that no species, no matter how powerful, lasts forever. After Quetzalcoatlus died out, the sky became empty, and the ancestors of birds started to fill that empty space. But they never got back to the giant size of Quetzalcoatlus. There are a few reasons for this. First, Quetzalcoatlus's body was very different from birds. Its wings were made of a leathery membrane, while birds' wings are made of feathers. Feathers are better, lighter, and easier to fix. A torn feather can be replaced, but a torn leathery membrane is very hard to fix and could be deadly for flying. Feathers also gave birds better insulation and more control when flying. Second, birds used a different way of flying. Pterosaurs, especially the big ones, were experts at gliding, which means floating in the air. They used air currents to use the least amount of energy. On the other hand, birds developed flapping flight, which gives them more speed and agility. This allows them to fly through thick forests or chase prey quickly. This uses more energy, which is probably one reason why birds didn't grow as big as Quetzalcoatlus. Beyond a certain size, the energy needed to flap wings becomes too much. Also, the world had changed. After the end of the Cretaceous period, the ecosystems were different. Maybe those giant prey animals weren't available, or the level of competition was different. Birds found success by staying small, which allowed them to thrive in many different places. Being small meant they needed less food and could easily hide from predators. Evolution pushed birds towards a design that was more flexible and efficient, even if it wasn't as grand. Nature chose efficiency and adaptability over giant size. In the end, Quetzalcoatlus was an amazing evolutionary wonder of its time, a product of unique conditions. It was a moment in the history of life when the limits of flight were pushed to the very edge. But it was a design that wasn't meant to last forever. When the world changed, this giant creature disappeared, and a new, better design took its place. Today, when we see an eagle or an albatross flying, we see the peak of the art of flight, a design that has been perfected by millions of years of evolution. Quetzalcoatlus reminds us that evolution doesn't always follow a straight path, and sometimes it creates such amazing wonders that they forever remain a source of our amazement.